On today's Strictly Vikings, we talk Aaron Rodgers to Minnesota. Is it a real possibility? Do I want it to happen? I actually have a pros and cons list for you that we're going to run through here in a short amount of time. Harrison Smith got extended, and the Vikings made some more moves, good moves, interesting moves, could maybe be setting up for something else. I don't know. We'll talk about it. We're going to look around the rest of the league, see what's going on. Some guys found some new homes. How does that affect the Vikings? Of course, we're going to break it down. And then we'll take a Facebook scroll of the week. We haven't in a while, but after the free agent signings, I figured why not? So let's do it. We got some great Facebook posts. Let's get right into it. Today is Wednesday, March 19th, and Aaron Rodgers really wants to be a Minnesota Viking. Now, let me tell you, this all starts with the Vikings needing a backup quarterback. In full disclosure, I want JJ McCarthy to be the starter. If Aaron Rodgers does come to the Vikings, I am going to be forced to like that decision. I'm going to be forced to root for Aaron Rodgers. And I'm going to be completely on board with the entire decision if that's the way things roll out. Because I'm a Vikings fan and I'm going to cheer for my team no matter who's on it, unless it's like Deshaun Watson or something. Whoever it may be, whoever the quarterback of my favorite team is, I'm going to cheer for and I'm going to root for them because I want to win games as a Minnesota Vikings fan, right? Let's just get that out there. But I don't want this to happen. I don't want Rodgers to come to Minnesota because, one, I think he's a head case. I mean, I know he's a head case. The Pat McAfee every Tuesdays, where he basically just goes on and bashes his team like subtly, like he doesn't do it in like an obvious fashion, but he does it in a way to where you know what he's talking about without actually saying it. Tell me where you're from without telling me where you're from type deal. You know what I mean? And when he does that, that disrupts the culture. It affects a locker room. When you have a locker room of guys who is solid, as in the Vikings are right now, and nothing really gets out, like nothing comes out of the Vikings locker room stories. You know, there's no bad vibes going on in there. It's all good. But when you have that Vikings locker room over here on the left, and then you got Aaron Rodgers on the right by himself, and Rodgers is telling different stories about what's actually going on, or he's telling his point of view of what's actually going on, and that's not how the rest of the team thinks or feels, that's where it's like completely different. That's where Rodgers can mess up an entire organization with just his presence and doing all this outside media crap. It's one thing to go on a podcast here and there during the season, talk about your team, talk about your players, talk about your teammates. But it's another thing to do it every single Tuesday, make a thing about it and, talk whatever. It's completely different. Another reason I don't really want him, he's requesting a lot of money. He's requesting $35 million a year. And if the Vikings were going to cough up $35 million a year to a quarterback, I feel like they would have Sam Darnold. He already knew the offense. He had a better year than Rodgers. He's younger. And I feel like the guys like him. They do like him. To where Rodgers, he's old. He hasn't been the same in the last 3 seasons, even though he had some comparable numbers last year. But the Jets still weren't good. When you watched Aaron Rodgers play, you weren't like, oh my God, this dude still got it. It was never none of that. Sam Darnold was way more impressive. So I don't want to pay him that $35 million. And that's just kind of where I'm coming from. But I also made a pros and cons list. If we want to go through that. Pros. We know what we're getting with Rodgers. We don't with McCarthy. That's facts. We don't know how good McCarthy could be. But another con is we know what we're getting with Rodgers. We don't with McCarthy. So it's a pro and a con, right? All right, let's go back to the pros. Ayahuasca becomes widely more accepted in Minneapolis. True. That's a fact. I mean, if he came here and just spewed his ayahuasca BS, it'd become widely more accepted. A vision of mine that I've had since I was like 4 years old would come to life because Aaron Rodgers is finally on the Vikings, and that's something I would have never imagined. It would kind of be crazy to see that play out. As I can remember, or as I can imagine, the people who always imagined Favre as Viking, and they got to see that play out, right? If Aaron Rodgers loses a game for the Vikings, I can just absolutely go off on him post game like I usually do, because I would always trash Aaron Rodgers. I didn't like him, human being or player, so I can just go back to that if he loses a game for the Vikings, and that's a pro. Content would be absolutely amazing. So this is more my end of things, but like content would be through the roof. The Vikings would be talked about all the time, which is probably a con, and I think I have it as a con. We'll get to it. But content would be amazing. All right, let's go to the cons. JJ McCarthy could be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and we just wouldn't know. So we could very well be wasting a season with Aaron Rodgers and having a top 5 quarterback on the bench, or we could see with that top 5 quarterback, if that top 5 quarterback is a top 5 quarterback, if you know what I mean. Another con, Aaron Rodgers is kind of an asshole. Point blank, period. Another con, he probably wouldn't mentor JJ McCarthy, and even if he did, he's probably teaching him all the wrong stuff in a galaxy brain move to help out the Green Bay Packers. Now, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers would want to help out the Green Bay Packers, but he very well could. He won a Super Bowl with them. Maybe he's going to live with, maybe this is like his revenge, or like his kind of like coming back party to Green Bay. Like, yo, I'm back in Green Bay, blah, blah, blah. God, that Rodgers returning a Green Bay game would be so fun, though. It would definitely be like a Sunday, Monday night primetime game. That would be so hype. I can't talk myself into it. He probably would look really ugly in purple. I mean, just the screenshots I've been seeing, it looks like a Megamind in that Vikings, Spaceballs in that Vikings helmet. I don't know if the Vikings would have a big enough helmet to fit his head, to be honest with you. The Vikings would have to pay him an assload of money, in which they could have just paid Sam Darnold that same amount. I'm just going down a list. Sorry if I've already said some of these. And then the Vikings will be talked about every single day on every single channel from now to the end of the football season. That could be a pro. That could be a con. Con for me, because I don't like people talking about my team. I like to talk about my team because I feel like I know more than the other people that talk about. Like, I know more about the Vikings than Stephen A. Smith knows about the Vikings. I know more about the Vikings than Shannon Sharp knows about the Vikings. And that's just facts. That's just facts. So I would rather have people get their Viking stuff from me, who pays attention and knows the fan base and is a fan, rather than Stephen A. Smith, who just got the prompt the day before and is now going to do all of his headline reading research and just go off of that. So those are my pros and cons for having Aaron Rodgers as a Minnesota Viking. Let's get into some other Vikings news here. Harrison Smith has been extended. Great stuff. Love that. Harrison Smith, all-time great. Back for another season. He's just the man. And another con about Aaron Rodgers coming to the Vikings, I wouldn't get to see Harrison Smith sack Aaron Rodgers anymore. That would be a con. The Vikings traded guard Ed Ingram to the Texans for a 6th-round pick, and then they used that 6th-round pick and a pick swap for Jordan Mason. So essentially, the Vikings moved back 27 spots in the 6th round of next year's draft, of this year's draft. I don't know, next year or this year, and they got Jordan Mason. Great deal. I think Jordan Mason's an excellent running back. He's going to provide downhill, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, yards after contact type running, red zone running, something the Vikings couldn't do last season. So with a revamped O-line, Aaron Jones re-signed, Jordan Mason traded for, it seems like a win-win to me. It seems like this offense is going to be pounding the rock as much as they can, which they need to do. The Vikings released Garrett Bradbury, and this is where things get tricky. The move saved the Vikings $7 million in cap space. So they're loading up the cap space this season, in which they could have done it. They could have waited and saved the cap space or it could have. I'm getting you guys confused. I'm getting myself confused. I believe the Vikings are trying to maximize their cap space for this season, meaning they're either going to sign someone or they're going to trade for someone and they're going to pay them. Sauce Gardner, maybe. But that's just that's just Vikings fan fiction. There could be nothing going on between the Vikings and Sauce Gardner, but if one person says it, if one person puts it out there into the galaxy and just throws it out there, like people are just going to run with it because they're so excited about the idea of Sauce Gardner being a Viking, me included, that they'll just run with it. And I respect it. I mean, I'm not bashing the people that said that idea. I love that idea. Like Score North, Purple Daily, they said, would you trade Jordan Addison for Sauce Gardner? And I would. I 100% would. I don't think Jordan Addison is going to be here for a second contract because I don't think they're willing to commit that much money like the Bengals to their wide receivers, in which I'd rather take the corner, a position that is way harder to find and way harder to develop, as the Vikings have proven in the past. But that is such like a Vikings logic thing, like, oh, Sauce Gardner of the Vikings, people run with it. They're off and running. But anyway, back to Garrett Bradbury. They're opening up the cap space. For what reason? I don't know. They already signed a bunch of guys. So what more do they need cap space for? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe you already know what happens by the time you're listening to this. Wouldn't that be crazy? That would be unbelievable. Rondale Moore and Jeff Okudah took visits to TCO Performance Center. Jeff Okudah signed yesterday, if you're listening to this on Wednesday. I think that's a great low-risk move. Like, see what B-Flow can do. He's a long, versatile corner. He went top 5 in the draft for a reason. We'll see what happens. Why not? Low risk reward. Just sign him to a dirt cheap contract. See what happens. Depth in a cornerback room that needs depth. Put it that way. The Vikings signed tackle Justin Skewell. Started 5 games for Tampa last season at both left tackle and right tackle. So, getting some backup players here for Darrison O'Neal. Maybe he can play guard. I don't know what their vision is. We'll see. And the Vikings are bringing back linebacker Eric Wilson. They needed depth with Grugier Hill being a free agent. So they bring back Eric Wilson, who was on the Packers, and now he's back on the Vikings. Vikings, Packers, Vikings. I believe he was with another team too. Maybe the Jets? Jets are probably just on my mind because it's Vikings, Packers, Jets, Rodgers, Favre, all of the above, whatever it is. All right, let's take a look at side-eye look around the league here. What's going on in the rest of the NFL? T. Higgins and Chase extended, which means Justin Jefferson is officially underpaid because he is not the highest paid wide receiver in the league. And as soon as that happens, he becomes underpaid. This is unbelievable to me that they extended both of them. I don't know if Jamar Chase held the Bengals hostage within you need to sign T. Higgins in order to extend me. I don't think. Maybe that was the case. Maybe they're boys. Maybe they're tight like that. That's one hell of a move from Jamar Chase if he did that. Like, respect to him. Maybe it was also like a I don't want to be here move. Like, no way they're going to say yes to this. Maybe they'll just move me. I don't know. I think he likes playing with Joe Burrow. But paying Burrow, Higgins, and Chase all that money, that's got to be what? Burrow's getting 50 a year, probably 60. Chase is getting 40. Higgins is getting 30. That's an insane. That's almost half the cap. That's almost half the cap for 3 guys. They're not going to have any defense. They're going to be signing me on defense come like week 12 when the injuries start stacking up. It's crazy. Derek Stingley, he got the bag. 3-year, $90 million extension. $89 million of it's guaranteed. I can't give you all the contract details and why they would just leave $1 million not guaranteed. Obviously something to do with The again, I'm not going to explain it to you because I have no idea why they would do that. That's why NFL GMs get paid the big bucks because they know how to do the math on all that bullshit. Falcons decided to keep Kirk Cousins on their roster as a backup. Is this a punishment? Is this a punishment for lying to them about his injury? Is this a punishment for what else did he do? I'm trying to remember what else he did, but it could be a punishment. He doesn't want to be there. I think he said that he wants to go somewhere where he could play, and I would imagine there are teams in the NFL where he would start on if he were to get traded, but the Falcons are just decided to keep him as a backup. I don't think Kirk is going to be too happy about that. I don't think Kirk signed a 4-year, $160 million deal to sit on the bench and help a rookie basically take his job. I mean, that was one of the reasons he bounced from Minnesota because he knew that they were probably going to be drafting his replacement. And then he went to Atlanta and they did the same thing to him. So weird scenario. It's going to be weird vibes. It seems like a type of deal to where he might get traded during training camp. Like, injuries happen before the season. Ex quarterback gets hurt. They need a guy. Let's trade for Kirk Cousins, whatever. And I think the Falcons would do that because I think they're just willing to roll with Michael Penix. They don't really care about Kirk Cousins. He's kind of in the rearview mirror now. So maybe he's a guy that gets traded during training camp. But I'm not worried about Kirk Cousins anymore. Let's just say that. Darius Slay to the Steelers. Steelers, if they sign Rodgers, they're officially signing it's going to be like a 5 years ago dream team. Metcalf, Rodgers, Slay. It's going to be crazy. All those egos. If they have Metcalf, Slay, Pickens, and Rodgers, those are a lot of Eagles. Those are a lot of egos for Mike Tomlin to deal with. I bet he likes the challenge of it, though. I think he likes the challenge of it. Cooper Kupp to the Seahawks. He's going home from Washington. I saw I think it was it was a Rams fan he was streaming. I don't know if he was kidding or not, but he was saying that the Cooper Kupp should have just played for Washington Commanders because that's his actual home is Washington, but it's Washington State, not Washington D.C. And I think he was still convinced when he looked up where the Commanders located and it said Washington D.C. He was convinced that that's where Cooper Kupp was from, but he also thought Washington State is Washington D.C. So that just goes to show how smart Rams fans are. They might be below. No, they're not below Vikings fans. Vikings fans are definitely top 3 idiotic fan bases for some of the reasons I have explained during this podcast with the Sauce Gardner stuff. But don't be offended if I say that. I mean, I'm definitely a part of that. We're all dumb because we all think something's going to change year in and year out, when in reality, it's just never going to change. We all know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens. I don't know. It doesn't really do much for me. D-Hop is just not that much of an impact player. Gardner Minshew signing with the Chiefs. There are no backup quarterbacks left. Mac Jones left. Cooper Rush left. Cooper Rush got signed to the Ravens. Jerry's backup redhead streak ends. They had Cooper Rush, Andy Dalton. Brandon Whedon was a redhead, I think. There was someone else. Jason Garrett. I think there might have been one more. But a lot of backup redheads in Dallas, and he is gone. Cooper Rush would have been fun on the Vikings, I feel like. He would have been a good time. Bills signed Joey Bosa. This is a good signing, in my opinion. Pretty solid, pretty basic. It's what you needed. 1-year deal. See what you can do. Joey Bosa, Von Miller. It's kind of like a wash duo, to be honest. Kyle Juszczyk signs a deal with the 49ers to San Francisco. Fullbacks are still relevant for somehow, some way, some reason. They're still getting paid. Paris Campbell and Miles Sanders, the Cowboys. This is a move that everyone will forget about come week 1, and then they'll see Paris Campbell and Miles Sanders on the Cowboys. They'll be like, whoa. But the reason I put this on here is because I think it's so funny how the Cowboys had this dream free agency about how they would sign blank and blank and blank, and then they just ended up with Miles Sanders and Paris Campbell. It's just like a typical Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones move. Let's get all these people excited about the Cowboys. We got Miles Sanders. He's gonna sell jerseys galore in the team store. It's a genius move by me, Jerry Jones, owner, president, CEO, GM, founder of the Dallas Cowboys. All of the above. I've done all of it, and you're going to see the Paris Campbell and Miles Sanders jerseys hitting the streets in no time, folks. Two big signings, and they're going to help us win our first Super Bowl since the freaking 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever the hell they were relevant. Lions keeping Tim Patrick. I hate this move because it's a good one. Tim Patrick was pretty consistent last year. I liked him when he was in Denver. He just dealt with some injuries. He plays a good role for the Lions. Respect to them for getting a good signing. Eagles signing A.J. Dillon. I know a lot of you will remember A.J. Dillon, Packers running back, quads. So now the Eagles got quads. They got quads and Quadzilla. I think Quadzilla is A.J. Dillon. I think it's Quadzilla. And then Saquon is just quads. Big quads. I'm trying to get like him. He should send me his workout routine. Maybe I'll hit him up. All right, that's all for the news and notes around the league. Before we finish up here, let's go to a Facebook scroll of the week. Talk about some free agency, talk about Rodgers. Here we go. Again, I take a scroll through Facebook, take the best posts because the Vikings fans have the best ideas on Facebook. It's where you find the best stuff. I don't say the names, but just go join some Vikings group chats on Facebook, see what people have to say. It's entertaining. And that's why I bring them to you, though. So actually don't do that, because then you wouldn't need me. So let me just do it for you. Someone said, I boycott Vikings football this year if Aaron Rodgers is on the team, with all due respect. 296 comments. It's pretty freaking ridiculous. That's not going to happen. If Aaron Rodgers is signed to the Vikings, nobody's boycotting anything because everybody's going to want to watch. It's like a car crash. You don't want to look, but it's something you just can't look away from. You know what I mean? Nobody's boycotting anything. Rumors of Rodgers have already fractured the Vikings culture in March. Rumors. Imagine what could happen if he actually got into our locker room. Please no. I can promise you this. Vikings fans or Vikings players are not refreshing Twitter on the daily just seeing if Aaron Rodgers is signed. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's worried about it. The culture hasn't been, nobody's together. The fact you can't lose a culture when nobody's together. It doesn't make any sense. The Vikings culture is not fractured because of some Aaron Rodgers rumors. That's just not true. Vikings fans, just a thought here. I know he's turnover heavy, but what if we picked up Jameis Winston to back up JJ? I would love that. Jameis Winston is one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the entire league. And the fact that when JJ McCarthy, like if JJ McCarthy goes down, injured, not playing good, whatever, I want an exciting backup. Nick Mullins is exciting. I like that. Jaron Hall, not exciting. Jameis Winston, exciting. Josh Dobbs, exciting. I like exciting backup quarterbacks because you never know what you're going to get. And that's what you want from a backup quarterback. From the fan perspective, I think it's the opposite of what you want from an NFL coach perspective. But in my opinion, I like the exciting quarterbacks. I like seeing them run around. I like seeing them throw interceptions, bunch of touchdowns. Give me Nick Mullins games all the time. 400 yards, 3 picks, 2 tutties. It's a fun game. We might not have won, but it's a fun game. These are 2 posts back to back that I saw. So one's right above the other. So this is the top one. I can't wait until these stupid Rodgers posts are over. Then below it said, in Coach O'Connell I trust. Rodgers will quarterback Vikings in 2025. Skol. That is Vikings Facebook to a T. If you could bring back Rodgers or Cousins or sign Rodgers, what would you pick? And the person spelled Rodgers wrong. 405 comments on this. Pretty ridiculous. What would I do? I would sign Rodgers just for the shits. Signing Kirk Cousins is pretty boring. We already know what we're getting. A worse version of what we had the previous 6 years. Rodgers is probably going to start, which I wouldn't be happy about. But at the same time, I kind of would. See, the more I talk about Rodgers coming to the Vikings, it's like it's so chaotic that I kind of love it. Just like, why not? But at the same time, I like JJ McCarthy and I want him to start. I'm going back and forth here. I like the chaotic element of Aaron Rodgers coming here. I like everyone kind of, I don't know, it'd kind of be fun. But it kind of wouldn't be. We'll see what happens. I got no say in it, so I'm just going to sit back and watch. Someone said, this is how it's going to go. Vikings get Rodgers and McCarthy gets hurt or pulled mid-season. First of all, Rodgers wouldn't be the backup. Rodgers comes in and wins the Vikings a Super Bowl. My entire life will be ruined, but we got that Super Bowl in parentheses. Your life would be ruined if the Vikings won a Super Bowl? Dog, no. Just because it's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers would be the greatest Viking of all time if he won a Super Bowl this upcoming season. Guaranteed. He's not going to have the stats. He's not going to have the stats to hold that place. He's not going to have the wins. He's not going to have anything else. But he's going to have something that no other Vikings player ever has. And that's a Super Bowl ring. And the fact that you're saying your life would be ruined if Aaron Rodgers got a Super Bowl ring, you despise the man that... Actually, I respect it. My life would be ruined too if Aaron Rodgers got a ring if it wasn't for the Vikings. Actually, I really wouldn't care that much if it was anyone but the Packers. So that doesn't really bother me. My life would be complete if Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl with the Vikings. I'm just going to end it on that. Someone said, if Rodgers isn't signed by the Vikings, consider me done. This is just like the epitome of Vikings fans. One person is saying, my life is over if he wins the Super Bowl. One person is saying my life is over if he comes to the Vikings. Another person is saying my life is over if the Vikings don't sign him. It's just Kirk Cousins all over again. It's just the polarizing drama about the Vikings quarterback position. It's all the time. It happens all the time. Someone said, Shedeur Sanders, if available at 24, yes or no? What? Dog, what? Shedeur Sanders at 24? I don't know if you're on to something, but like, no way there's not a single possibility that this guy was thinking, oh, I'm going to trade him. Not a shot. There is a reason the Vikings extended KOC and did not extend Kwesi. What good is all the free agent signings if Vikings don't have a quarterback if JJ is not ready? What? So this guy is basically saying the Vikings should pause all signings until the Vikings get a backup quarterback if JJ McCarthy isn't ready. So let's get rid of Jonathan Allen, Hargrave, Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, Jordan Mason. Get rid of all of them. I don't want them. The Vikings don't have a backup quarterback. I don't want them. We find our backup quarterback and then we build the team, is what this guy is saying. I couldn't disagree more. Someone said, if Rodgers' political opinions are causing you significant distress about his position on our team, it would be advisable to seek professional therapeutic help without delay. I kind of agree, but I kind of disagree. It's not the political views for me. Like, it's not, I don't give a shit about that. He could be so far left. He could be so far right. I'm going to hate him either way because he's just a douche who thinks he knows it all. I'm going to hate him either way. Right? But if you don't need to seek professional therapeutic help if, like, I don't know. This is just a crazy post. Gun to your head, who you signing to the Vikings? Rodgers or Diggs? Like, what is this hypothetical? Rodgers or Diggs? That's just like two opposite ends of the spectrum. Well, and why is it so bad if you sign? I'm signing Rodgers because it'd be funny. I don't know. And I've already seen Stephon Diggs on the Vikings. I don't need to see it again. All right, last one here. Why are people pushing for Rodgers? He is a selfish, cancerous douche. It's literally what I just said. I didn't even know it was coming. Everything opposite of what is the best culture in the NFL. See, that's my reason. Best culture in the NFL. That is my reason, and I back that dude up. I back that dude up fully. All right, let's go to ChatGPT here. Go to ChatGPT. Let's ask him to name. Oh my God, I can't type. Name the most random Vikings player you can think of. All right, I'm gonna go. God, who was it last week? So they always go someone obvious every once in a while. ChatGPT does. So I'm gonna go Chris Carter. How about Joe Webb? I swear they've done Joe Webb. I just need to start guessing the same 5 guys they always say. All right, we're gonna do another one, and I'm going with Chris Carter. All right, I'm gonna say name another one. Tyrus Thompson. I don't know who that is. I'm never gonna get this. Appreciate you guys tuning in. That was a great episode, funny episode. I kind of go off the rails when there's really not much to talk about, but appreciate you guys tuning in. Let your friends, family know, every Vikings fan you know about Strictly Vikings. Big things coming this upcoming season. I promise you that. Appreciate you guys.